Amazing. Welcome back to Overcompensated, where we talk about ambition, alignment, and building a sustainable career without burning out. Today's guest is someone that I've admired from afar. Bolu is a senior account executive at Conduit Technology. He's also a former UCLA football player, a new father, and an incredibly intentional leader in the tech space. What really stands out to me about Bolu is how open he's been about the inner work behind the success in terms of visualizing his goals, staying consistent, and showing up fully as he is. I feel like this is one of those conversations you're really going to want to revisit. So, good morning, Bolu. Thank you so much for taking the time today. I would love to kick it off just by asking, what's your version of how you got into tech and why?
Yeah, no, first off, thank you for having me. It's definitely an honor to be in this space. I remember just having a conversation with you, what was that, 4 years ago, getting into SM Tech. I think it was the second interview I did. It's funny just how things kind of work out. But yeah, it's a really funny backstory of, how I got into tech, and why I got into tech. And really it was just pure ignorance, like, and I would say positive ignorance, because I was in a state of coming off of thinking I'm going to go play in the NFL. That didn't go the way I wanted, and I started doing little odd jobs working at Amazon, and I think I did. It was a door to door sales job in Miami when I lived in Miami for a little bit. That I started getting to the sales piece of the sales methodology and all of that stuff that I had no idea about, and I was just doing it to literally just feed myself and my wife at the time, or girlfriend or fiance at the time. So what really drove me into tech was just seeing people like flourish, not having be a musician or a ball player, what people usually expect someone like myself to be. And so I just wanted a career. That was the one thing that I knew that I wanted to do. And I just felt like, hey, whatever I need to do that, I'll do that. And so that is honestly, why I got into tech sales. I mean, a friend actually was the one who told me about us in tech. I was like, hey, bro, you'd be a good fit. You should just reach out to them. And that's when I was just like, well, I have nothing to lose. And the one thing that actually drove me to do all of this, actually, believe it or not, was health benefits. Like, funny little story. It's actually funny, but it's actually like I'm glad, because I actually had like my gallbladder taken out. I think last year, 2 years ago, and I had been suffering with stomach issues for a while, and so that was the one reason why I was like, I need to get a job so I can go to the doctor. So that is actually the main reason that I was like, let me just get a career, because I don't want to go down that path of I'm an entrepreneur but not have any plan. So I always knew that there was a way to do that at the same time as building a career. So
That's incredible. And I think for the listeners, a lot of people don't know what Us in Technology is. So I'm just going to give a little bit of backstory. Us in Technology is a company that I worked at during COVID, actually, was part of the founding team. And the entire purpose was to get more minorities and people from underrepresented backgrounds into the tech industry. We had the opinion that the barrier for entry to tech sales should be very low. You don't need a specific degree, you don't need a specific background. Obviously, Bolu, you came from like a football background, and obviously we know that people who are in competitive sports tend to perform pretty well in sales. But that being said, I mean, I came from a totally opposite background. I did social sciences, and I think our intention was to give more people the opportunities to build their careers up. And so I think that's a great kind of transition, because obviously you started in an LDR role at a company, correct? And now you've worked your way
yeah.
up over the last 4 years to being an account executive. And I even know there's people, who are in SDR, BDR type roles right now, who are really trying to move up the ladder. So, can you give a little bit of context about how you were able to progress your career so effectively in a really, short amount of time?
Yeah, no, that's a really really good question. Is I actually had a couple calls with people that I've been talking to, we're hiring at my company. So I've been kind of just having conversations with people, and that has been a topic. And I think the biggest thing that has accelerated my career is everything outside of what I do at work. And I think it's building a brand. I'll never forget who told me this when I started working at Service Titan. It's like, hey, if you can build a brand that's strong enough, companies are going to want you just because you're you, and they don't want to, detach themselves from you because you build a brand so strong that when they think of you, they think of that company. And so I just kind of just dedicated myself to like, okay, I want to just be, the guy that works hard, the guy that, always willing to do what he needs to do to get the job done. The guys that's kind of, I'll say I'm vulnerable. I'm not afraid to tell people the truth. I do not care. Like why I don't gain anything from, not being honest. And so, that's definitely what I say has kind of set me apart. I've been able to, this is going to be a funny statement, but I've been able to play the political game a little bit, in terms of, how the space is. And you kind of have to know, how to maneuver a space, right? When to speak up, how to speak up, right? Sometimes people don't understand your opinions are great, but, how you go on about it, right? You can't be, quote unquote, the bratty child, that's like, I'm not satisfied, right? You have to be constructive. You have to always be solution based. And so that is something I try to embody in myself as just a person outside of just work, right? I work, yeah, I did what I needed to do extra. I kind of thought of everything as like football, right? If I'm at practice, I'm usually going to show up early, do treatment, get myself ready to go for practice, and then after practice I'm probably going to stay late, do a little bit of extra reps, try to get, fine tune things that I need to work on. It's the same exact thing in tech sales, in my opinion, right? And the biggest thing was I woke up early. I used to wake up 5:30 a.m. on Pacific Standard Time as an LDR every day. And the biggest thing about it was I had a group of people. I still talk to those group of people to this day from us in tech, that we all made it to Service Titan together. And so I think that was the key piece of, what helped me accelerate, a little bit faster in the last 4 years is kind of embodying a brand and being able to have a group of people around me. Like I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't know key people. Like honestly, like I always tell people, like LinkedIn made me hundreds of thousands of dollars because I'm able to connect with people. Like I talked to somebody on LinkedIn the other day that we've been connected for years, and I was just like, hey, I want to catch up. Saw you, you just recently got promoted or you got a new job. Want to definitely just connect with you. Like we had a conversation for like an hour, and it's like I've never met this guy, right? But like I have a stronger tie with him than shoot, people I've probably seen just because of what we are doing right now in the space. And I think that's very important in order to move your career up because I've been able to impress the right people and really show the right people that I want to do this and I'm passionate about it and that everything that I do, it's not just about the dollar signs. I try to put myself behind it, my why, my true passion behind what I do. And I think that's what sets me apart from a lot of other people because I may not know as much, right? I'm in an industry where I've never worked in HVAC in my life outside of starting at Service Titan, right? And I'm in a company now where we're still doing HVAC and I'm even more, I understand a lot more than I ever have. And I've never been at this point. It's just been, connecting and making sure that, I'm always on top of my game. So I think that was the biggest thing for me, honestly. It's just, the branding and, having a good group of people and just really networking. Like if you don't have those three, I don't know how it will all put it, how it'll come together, if that makes sense. So those were the biggest things that drove my career the last 4 years.
That makes perfect sense. And I love the piece about branding because I feel like defining yourself as a professional that people can trust to perform is really the only thing that leaders are looking for. Like, I
Right.
am a hiring manager and I just tell, the people that on my team, like, my expectation is that 100% of you are going to hit 100% in a role like sales.
Hmm.
Like, as long as you know that they're going to come in, they're going to work harder,
Yeah.
they're going to outwork their
Yes.
peers, they're going to be curious
Right.
and resourceful. Like, the other things like the technical knowledge, like you can train on that, but you can't train on those like core basic, what we would call soft skills. And so I love the part about like, defining your brand. And then also like the executive presence piece. Like I feel like when you're talking about like how to engage in certain rooms, how to engage with leadership versus peers versus,
Hmm.
at certain different companies, it all changes. And I know we can kind of sometimes think of it as like code switching, but I feel like it's
Hmm.
just being smart. I honestly, since you
Yeah.
laughed, I'm curious as to like what you think about that. But I just feel like it's just being intentional about how you communicate in certain spaces and places.
Yeah.
This is getting a little off script, but I'm curious.
No, I think that's a really good point because like sometimes when like I'm working and I'll be in this space and maybe my mother-in-law's here or my wife's here, I always think in my mind, I'm like, man, they're probably like he just completely just switched up you like how he's talking, how and I call it the money talk, like the money voice, right? That's really what it is. And if I'm being honest with you, I match whoever I'm talking to. So if he's hype, I'll be hype. If he's, cool, calm, collected, I'll be cool, calm, collected, right? So I think you're right. It's more than code switching. You actually have to know how to talk to different people. And even in my company, like, I'll talk to private equity type of people. I'll talk to mom and pop, right? Like, dude just doing the job on his own out in the field, right? Like, he's probably cussing up a storm on the phone, right? Like, obviously, I'm not matching that type of energy. I'm, kind of letting them know that it's okay. I'm all right. Like I'm not one of those, yes, I'm a salesperson, but I'm also a human being, right? Like, so yeah, I agree with that. That's why I laugh at that because I feel like we do that with regular people that we know every day anyway, right? Like you're not going to go to your acquaintance and do what you would do with your best friend right out the gate. Like, like the first thing you probably say to your best friend, like, which is funny when I see my wife and her best friend and how they kind of interact. She wouldn't do that with an acquaintance. So we do that every day. So it's something that if you master, it can get you in the right rooms, right? Because honestly, an art of code switching is just knowing when to shut up too and just be a fly on the wall.
Hmm.
Honestly. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's more than just code switching. It's honestly, I like to call it the money voice. It's money making voice and kind of having the ears to understand what's happening and, what's the word? Not being tone deaf, right? Understanding the situation, read the room. That is what I think it is. It's a true talent, to be honest. And some people, they honestly can't master it, which is sad. So, I
Hmm.
won't say sad. I'll say maybe it's a talent for people like us because we're in different spaces. I used to tell people in high school like I could go sit with the jocks, I could go sit with like the nerds, I can go sit with like in like the chess club, this club. I was that type of guy that's like I could be anywhere. Like I went to a school where we were all diverse, like we did different things, and so that to me is a skill set, and I think that's learning that when at a young age is what made it easy for me to kind of maneuver these spaces I'm in. I've worked in manufacturing. I have so manufacturing software, right? Like I don't know a thing about manufacturing, but I've talked to engineers, rocket scientists, right? And everyone wants to just be heard out at the end of the day. So I think it is just way more than just code switching. It's really a talent on being a human being and trying to connect with people, to be honest.
Yeah, and I love that perspective because when I was first starting out in sales, we learned
Hmm.
about mirroring. If you've read Never Split the Difference or, seen that, I feel like it's the same idea. Like you mirror the way that people like communicate because that's what's going to resonate and that's how you get your point across. And I feel like no matter if you're like in a job, if you're trying to just like network with people, like people, again, to your point, they want to be heard. They want to feel like what they're saying is resonating. I get questions from people all the time, like, can we like, network? Can we hop on a call? Can I like learn things from you, et cetera, et cetera? And obviously, like the intention is always to be able to like, support,
Learn more.
other people. But as long as someone feels like, again, that they're what they're doing is like valuable,
Yes.
especially for the mentorship part you're talking about, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, like I feel like people are more inclined to like want to help people, that they like and that they want to support. And that's what I've seen like way more of. Honestly, when I was first getting started, I thought people didn't want to mentor people. I thought people are going to be too
Really.
busy, they're not going to have time. And then
Mm,
over my career, I've realized that there are so many people who want to help you as long as you're, reaching out and
yeah.
trying to engage with them. Do you feel like you have people who have served as mentors over your career that have like helped you progress?
Percent. I wouldn't be here with all of my mentors, and I have a couple that I'm very grateful to have from us in tech, right, to working at Service Titan and really being able to impress some managers and not only impress but work with these managers and want to be better, right? And if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here today. I just had a conversation with one earlier this week, right? Like, and we're that close, like to where it's like you know hey, call me when you need it, right? Let me know what you need. Update me at any time. Like, no matter what I'm doing. This is the busiest man in the world. And I know that for a fact. But he always makes these times for me 10, 20, 30 minutes. And so, because he does that, one thing I want to point out is I try to do that. So, like, people who are in my inbox, I really do try to be like, let's talk, let's chat, right? Like, like I said, we're hiring right now for an AE, and every person I get to talk to, I'm just like, hey, I get to work. I hope I get to work with you, right? Like, I hope we get to do things because the more people that come work, they come help me too. Because if you're coming to come close deals, we're getting awareness out there, more people out there. That's going to help me. So I am a huge team player. And so I think Kendrick said something about, giving mentorship out and, being a mentee. And it's like, you just always have to give something, always kind of like, hey, I'm giving. And then, obviously I'm probably taking from someone who that person is giving. So it's almost like a domino effect essentially or
Yeah.
something like that. So yeah, no, mentorship is so important. I want to do that more. Like, honestly, I think that's the one thing that if LinkedIn could probably maximize that in some way in terms of, I don't know, mentorship piece in the app or something. I don't know. I think
Mm-hmm.
there could be a lot in there because you're right. Like, LinkedIn is very powerful and there's a lot of people out there that are willing. It's just, the approach, right? And how intentional you are about it. So I agree.
Yeah. Paying it forward is so important. And honestly, I feel like part of
Yes.
like the most fulfilling part of my career was us in technology, where you're able to just like mentor and advise
Yeah.
so many people at scale. Again, because these
Yeah.
jobs are life changing. Like I think like being able
Hmm.
to like work in tech and like break into tech, like you're, going to end up at an income level that most people will never be able to, reach. But again, there's no barrier to entry. A lot of it is just knowledge. Like when I, was first starting out, like I didn't have any family members who, like I call it like first
Mm.
generation tech. Like I didn't have any family
Yeah.
members who worked in tech or who knew anyone who worked in tech. Honestly, when I first
Mm.
started, my family was like, "What are you doing? Like maybe go get a like master's degree or something.
Right, right,
Like you
right.
want to sell like
You're funny.
legal software? Like what are you
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?" And I was like, "I just need a roof over my head. I'm just doing the only job that apparently anyone's hiring for." And I feel like
Right,
now it's way
right.
more competitive. I mean, that was like, 8 years ago, but it's getting more competitive. But I think it's still important to get the kind of like message out there that these careers are accessible now, to the point of like
Yeah.
you starting out with a dream of kind of like going into football. I'm assuming there was like some level of like disappointment there. Like what is your perspective on people who have to like switch into something that they like maybe weren't expecting, and even if they're not going to know what's going to be on the other side of it. Obviously you've come out on the other side like super successfully, but I
Mm.
know it's really intimidating for people who are trying to like switch careers and switch industries. Like do you have
Yeah.
any like advice for navigating that kind of like, it's emotional, that kind
Yeah.
of transition?
Yeah, no, it is. It's definitely tough. I'll never forget like when my football career was over, it was my only attempt at ever even getting into the NFL in some way. I did a workout at Green Bay. I didn't take any pictures. I didn't take any videos. I was so locked in. I told myself, we're doing that once we get signed. Did what I could do, and I think I got in at 5 a.m. that day. We did 12 a.m. that day, did a workout at 5 a.m. Got sent home that day, didn't get signed. I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm like, I don't think I can, do this anymore in terms of, being a sustainable future for myself. Like, yes, I know guys that, grind and live in their car and all that, and I respect it, but I'm like, if I use that same effort for something else, I'm pretty sure I can get farther. And I always thought about, compounding, how things compound. And yes, I can go do something, that has, high monetary value for 3, 4 years, right? And then I don't have anything to do for the next 30, 40, I can't figure it out. Or hey, figure it out. Transition will be hard for the first 3, 4 years, and then figure something out in terms of getting a career, and then watch how that compounds. And I think that's been a testament in my last 4.5 years, and why I've been able to kind of I feel like I try to do a year of work in 6 months. Like I think that's how if you put it together, going from LDR to senior AE, I definitely had to do a lot of work to get to that point. And that is, I think, the testament of knowing that, hey, the transition that I'm making, I'm going to just focus on the core values of who I am. And who I am is I work hard. I am coachable. Just tell me what I need to do, and I promise I will figure it out. And I, do it at a very high level. And for those who are trying to, make a transition, my advice to them is to focus on what you're good at, and highlight those things, right? If you are someone that you're very determined, right? Focus on being determined then, right? If you have to start from little pieces, right? Be determined in in baby steps to where you need to get to, right? And that can be in different ways. So like for me, it was like, hey, I'm gonna go work Amazon. I'm gonna go get in that truck, and I'm gonna go drive this truck, and I'm gonna drop packages off. But I know this is not where I like the end game. I will never forget being in the car in Amazon. This was in Miami, and I'm like, I cannot do this. I'm like, this is not my life. I really hated it so much, but it all honestly drove me because I knew that was not going to be my life. I just knew it. That was just, that's another thing for those who want to make a transition. Just know that you want better for yourself. If that's what you know, then stick to that because sometimes it may be blurry. It's like staring at a foggy window, right? Like, you have to keep working at, wiping that window off to where, the fog's finally coming down. You're starting to see things and it's starting to come clearly. And for me, even when I was in LDR, it was still foggy. Like, I'll tell you right now, it was very foggy. I was just like, I'm in a position to do something different. That's all I knew at that point. And I said, let me just focus on the things that I know I can do best, align that with what I'm good at already, and let's run. And that is what I did. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. every day. I would make my dials by 12 p.m. and I would basically be done by 1 p.m. and be able to do more. So I'm doing a day and a half of work, right? And really proving my value like that and doing that every single day. And that compounded into becoming an SDR and then booking meetings and them putting me on different pilots and me being successful in those pilots and then becoming a BDR, traveling and starting to meet people and creating a brand, like bringing that brand with me now in person and starting to build something. And so that all compounded into literally what I am doing today. And it's like I think about it when I remember when I was in LDR and I heard about an AE. I'm like, what is an AE? Like, what do AEs do, right? And I just told myself, okay, great, be an AE then. Like, what do we have to do? Let's just do that. And that's what I just focus on. And it's funny now that I'm at this point, me being just kind of being transparent is I have to actually now start thinking what's next because I've been focused on AE so much, so badly that now I'm here, right? What's next, right? And I don't ever want to be the complacent person. I don't want to be a career seller per se. I want to get to leadership. And so that's the number one thing that I know that I'm meant for in this industry. And that's what I'm focusing on. And so those are the core things that I know that's a part of me when I was making that transition is that I know I can be a leader. I can, motivate others. And, I want people to always know they can always be better than me and do better than what I'm doing because that's what we want, right? That's how the world will always progress. And so I'm very selfless when I think of things like that. And that's how I kind of go about it. And that's how, that's what helped me in my transition. Like I said, everybody's transition is different. I would just focus on the core values, stick to those core values, and, piece by piece, hour by hour, literally day by day. That's how you kind of have to go about it, right? And those little wins literally matter. I promise you they do. Like, they may not mean a lot, but, that 5:30 a.m. when I was like, I'm going to do this, it compounded, to now here I am, as a senior AE, right? I don't have to wake up at 5:30 anymore, thank God. But it did help. And so those were the things that helped me in my transition.
I think that's amazing. And honestly, having known you throughout this entire journey, A, it's really inspiring, but B, when you're talking about leadership, as someone who, was a first time leader a few years ago and now has,
Hmm.
I try to give people advice, who are trying to transition into leadership and taking, more of that on. I feel like your piece about being selfless and wanting to see success from others is literally one of the key differences that makes, a really powerful, impactful leader versus like a mediocre leader. Like when you care more about seeing other people's success and other people's wins than your own success, that's when you're meant for leadership. And I feel like, just in terms of knowing you, like any people underneath a leader like that are going to be able to find success. They're going to be able to thrive. They're going to be able to differentiate, people's key, unique differentiators, as you were talking before, like
Yeah.
being able to identify, what's really special in a person. How do you cultivate
Yeah.
that? And then how do you identify the gaps and help, coach to those gaps? And I just feel like obviously tech needs more leaders like
Yeah.
that, and I just feel like it's so important, so impactful. I definitely see that journey, and like
Yeah.
again, like I love working with people who are trying to also like define their own like leadership voice, because there's a lot of different ways. Like you can be
Yeah.
someone who's very like transformational, you can be someone who's very servant leadership focused. There's like so many different types of leadership, and finding that like unique voice. But at the end of the day, the entire purpose is to help others be successful. Again, it's like the way that you're volunteering your time and volunteering the mentorship and just giving back, like those are the key things. So I feel like that journey for you is like no brainer. But I know that you have congratulations on being a new
Thank
father.
you.
I'm
Yes.
curious about how being a father has changed your approach to how you
Mm.
operate. Like, I'm sure that like having like the stability and the consistency and the finances of, working in sales is fantastic. And I'm sure that's really motivating to you wanting to like achieve more and do more. But yeah, as someone in this space who, is taking care of a family, but you're still very early on in a lot of these different journeys, like how has that impacted your approach, your energy, your ability to like balance your work life and your home life? Very curious.
It's a really good question. And, I thought about it too. And like, have things changed for me in the last 16 months? Or I mean, even when she was pregnant. So I guess last 2 years, 3 years here, at this point, I think it's like, it's taught me how to really slow down and speed up at the same time. What that means is like, I feel like before I was just willy nilly, I would just exhaust myself. Like, I don't really care. Like, I gotta just do what I need to do. But, now having a child, like, it actually causes me to be more routine based. And I need that because I'm from an athlete background. So, like, now I know, hey, when we get to that 4 or 5 o'clock range, like, don't reach out to me or don't ask me to do anything seriously because I'm going to be with my child because I need to just slow down and be in the moment. Right now, if we wake up in the morning though, I have that energy because I want to get things done because I know, I'm building for a life here. I'm building, for the future lives as well. So, it's definitely caused me to be a lot more patient and being more in the moment than anything. Like, I never thought I would be, I never thought I'd be in this, I've always been so focused on what's next, what's next, what's next. But like lately I've been just more of like, no, let me just, cherish now because I mean, sometimes we're just so focused on just what's next, what's next, what's next. We're forgetting the journey. And people always, forget the journey. The journey is what's the important piece. The end game, yes, is very important as well. But what you go through is very important. What you kind of, on your day to day, like for me, things that are different. I just bought a bike. Like me and my wife, I bought her a bike, and I'm like, we're gonna go biking, right? Like I'm gonna do all the most suburban dad things ever because that brings me more joy than anything, honestly. Like, and I love it. And being in a neighborhood and kind of having neighbors, being part of an HOA and stuff like that stuff. Kind of even though I hate that they charge us a lot, well, that's another conversation for later. But that stuff excites me. So it just it makes me feel like because. I feel like when I was growing up, seeing fame and people who have money, and it's like I was like, you know what? I want the money, I don't want the fame though. So how can I have the money and have like the regular lifestyle, right? Like and have the everyday millionaire, right? Like I don't know if you ever read that book. I love that book by I forgot his name. One of Dave Ramsey's good friends, but Everyday Millionaire is to me ever since I read that book, I've been chasing that because people don't know there are so many millionaires that are around us every day that are just in a t-shirt, shorts, just very regular, right? And I love that. That's what I want. I want to be able to be that. Like you see me, and it's like, oh wow, you're living a very, very minimalist lifestyle. You have a nice home and all that, but it's like, hey, I'm sitting on a lot of assets. I have a lot of good investments, all of that, and so that is definitely like the thing that motivates me the most because now I have a family, and then like family brunches are like the best thing in the world. Like, going with your, especially my daughter, she is a jokester, she loves to eat stuff, spit it out, she's in that stage now, throwing things, but I honestly like every day I say this to my wife, like when my baby goes to sleep, I'm like, damn, I miss her. Like, I just can't wait for the next day. Cause it's just like, just seeing her alone is like, okay, I got a reason to live. Like I have not more than live. I have a reason to really give it my all at the times I need to give it my all, and I have a reason to really settle down and cherish this and play with her, be with her, right? And sometimes my wife would be like, "Hey, can you play with her?" I'm like, you know what? You're right. And I want to be able to give my child my. I'm not like I didn't have a childhood like that. I feel like as a Nigerian, it was a little bit more traditional, strict, and it's loving, but in a very rash way. I don't want to be afraid to show my daughter love and be like, hey, I love you. Like I'm not afraid to say all those things and be all around her and show her that this is a household of love. And so, in order for me to do that, though, I have to be in the moment. Otherwise, I'll get caught up in, oh, I got to close this deal. I got to do this. I do that. I've noticed now on my weekends, I don't care about work. Before, I used to be locked in. Like I would actually be on my laptop doing things. Now, lately, Friday, once that five hits, or shoot, three in a day, shoot, I will see you Monday. I'll open up my laptop. We'll talk about it later. And I feel like I'm good enough now in my job, and I know when to like, all right, let's turn it up, right? All right, we're getting, we're 50% to the month now. We're here. This is where we're at in quota. What do we need to do to get there? I can turn it on. Like, so I've mastered all those skills from, being a BDR, LDR, all of that to where like, okay, I know who to be in the right moment. And so that helps also when I'm, a father, because now I can, there are times where I'm like, okay, let me block my calendar because this is what I'm going to be doing for work. Or, hey, let me block my calendar because I don't want anything to book because my daughter's going to be right here. So I want to be able to work, do some admin while she's around. I can watch her. And it's also important to find companies that are family forward. I think that's very important as well, honestly, because you don't want to feel that pressure of like, can I do this? Can I do that? So I am also blessed to be at a company where, like my founder just had a child not too long ago. And sometimes she's in the car on the way to daycare when we're talking about deals and stuff. And it makes me feel great and like a human, because it's like, okay, great. She's practicing how to do this too, because this is her first child too, and it's like she's a hard worker too, by the way, amazing worker. But seeing her have to slow down has also made me be like, oh, let me chill out. So I know I just gave a really long-winded answer for that, but it's an experience. I won't lie to you, I'm still experiencing it. Like it's one of the most biggest blessings ever, and it's a motivating thing, and it's also a calming, humbling thing as well.
And I think finding that balance is so important. And it's also probably so incredible for your daughter to have your like presence and just like this like role model of someone who values like, moving up and providing and, giving her the things that, are going to make her life, easier and prosperous and blessed and all of those things,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
also being able to have like a company that values like that balance. And I feel like not
yeah.
everybody has that. I mean, my dad was a lawyer, and
Mm,
he had four kids, and when we were born, he had been working at like a very like a very intense law firm. When we were born, he ended up
mm,
taking like a position at the EPA because we lived in DC. And so, did he take a pay cut? Yes, but was he able to be, more present and still give
mm,
us like everything that we needed in life to like end up where we are? I couldn't be more thankful, to have
yeah.
those that like time, have those memories. Those are things you can't get back. I feel like, making money. I mean, our life is long, our careers are long. You're always gonna
Yeah.
have the opportunity to like make more money, but those kind of
Hmm.
like memories and like having that level of just like presence
Yeah.
and family and community and connection and like love is just like
Yeah.
that stuff is that those are the intangibles. But yeah, I mean, you
Right.
can
Right.
always
Right.
climb the ladder, but it's not like you want to do it at the expense of
Skip the
having
steps.
like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
balanced life.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think work life balance is very important. I mean, I definitely have balanced myself a lot in the last year at least. And that's part of the reason why like I do want to be a leader, because I mean, as an IC, everything is on us, right? Like I know that I control my destiny. And which is great, but I do like that leader aspect because I can focus more on, these group of people, and making sure that I can ensure their success during this, my hours of, working. Whereas like as an AE, sometimes I might have to actually, do extra work just so I can be successful for that month, just because maybe pipeline's low, or, it's a hard month, things of that nature. Whereas like for as a leader, I think I think I would be like more of a thought leader, just because I'm always in my head and always thinking of what can we do, how can we make sure people are leveraged in the right way, because I believe that not everyone can do everything. I do believe in the jack of all trades is master of none. I really do believe that. Like I think it's like I know for a fact I might not be the most organized, process person. I'm working on that, but I promise you I will bring you the fire. I will make sure that the energy is there. I will be coachable, right? But I know where I'm weak at. I really do. And obviously I need to work on those things, but I think that stuff is very, 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 very important.
Yeah, and having that empathy as a leader, I mean, I think you said it, perfectly with your founder who, understands that the people underneath her like still need that like balance. And when you can incorporate that level of empathy into leadership, it makes people feel seen, it makes them feel valued,
Yes.
it makes them want to work
Yes.
harder because I'm sure, having a leader who
Yeah.
understands, your competing priorities and is not going to like shame you for them or judge you for them or hinder your career for them probably makes you want to like work harder for the company, make more money for the
Yeah.
company versus,
Yep.
a company that might be
Yep.
micromanaging or not give you that
Yep.
same level of, flexibility and freedom. And I feel like that's so important. Like not everybody has these like freedoms. And so, we're very lucky to work at, organizations where
Yep.
you can have that and it's valued and recognized and it doesn't make you less committed or a worse performer. If anything,
Right.
it makes
Right.
us all better.
Right. No, I definitely agree on that. So, I mean, that's why I go to work every day, with that mindset that I have. I see it in, if I can see it reflected in my leaders, I think that's a really good sign. I think you can actually do more by actually focusing on the things that you can kind of do less, if that makes sense. So, like, really being able to make time at the right times for, the important things in your life, right? And so I think that does help, right? Whereas, burning out, I don't think there'll be as much from burning out. Maybe there'll probably be results, but what's going to happen after the burnout, right? Like people are forgetting about the after piece. Whereas if there's a consistent, trust and flow and, life, right? Like I think that's why remote life is a little bit different than in office life. I really do believe that the people who are able to work remote and still, have a social life and, not feel like they're alone and all those things. I think those are special people because I actually do connect with people on Zoom just because that's all I've been used to, right? I did come up in the Zoom era. So I guess maybe that's what that is. But I think that's what makes, working in a remote sense kind of special because now when I go see these people, it's like, man, these are my best friends, right? And so that's what I love about the remote lifestyle, though. You can still be able to weave your life in, literally living life, right? And I love that. Hey, if I wanted to go, on a trip, as long as I can work my hours and run my demos, I can be on a trip. And even my boss even says that all the time. She's like, "You need to just take a trip," And so that's the cool thing. It's special. It's definitely a special thing, and to still stay locked in and make sure you're hitting your goals. So I will say it's the rare few right now, which is why it's probably harder to get a job. I think why it's so competitive because they don't want to just get anybody to just be remote. And, there's this little weird shadow on remote work all of a sudden. I don't know why. I think those are just the haters. But I think that is why it is harder because they want to make sure whoever we're hiring, you said it, the trust factor. Like, I want to make sure that I'm not just hiring someone who's kind of just going to do their job, right? You're working from home. We want to ensure that, hey, there may be days where you might not do as much, but there might be days where I'm going to do a lot, right? And that's why being in a remote world is awesome. I can leverage different ways I want to, operate in my day. And so it's special to do that. And I think that's why we're seeing what we're seeing in the marketplace as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I mean, I was remote during COVID and now we're in the office 4 days a week. And I definitely see, value in both.
Yeah.
I work with very entry level people, like similar to like when you were in LDR. It's
Yeah.
way easier to manage entry level
I
people in an
get that.
office. I promise
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
being able to
Yeah.
like oversee what they're doing. But once you move up and once you're, more senior and you're an account executive, I mean, the AEs at our company, they might come into the office like when they want to. But for the
Hmm.
most part, I mean, once you establish who you are at an organization, similar to what
Yeah.
you were saying, like you have your brand, people that know that they can trust you, then you
Yeah.
have more freedom and flexibility to like move up
Yep.
and be able to work remotely and operate independently. So I am totally with you. I think that my personal like preference for early career people is that it does
In the
build a
office.
sense of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and I know you were remote when you first started in tech, but
I
I think
was.
that, like having those like social skills, because not everybody, is as charismatic as you. There's some
True. True.
areas
True.
of
True. 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 True.
development for some people. But
Sure.
it has been really great. But I do think that like
Yeah.
moving up, yeah, like having that flexibility as you get older is
That's
just
true.
like, and
Yeah.
more established is so important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I was on Zoom a lot anyway. I was doing Zoom for life insurance. I think that was the barrier was already broken because you're right. Some people can be like, that awkward silence sometime on Zoom. It's like we can talk,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely
Yep.
understand.
Yeah, but I appreciate your time today so much. I just have a
Thank
couple
you.
closing questions because I truly think
Yeah.
that this was such like a grounding and motivating conversation, and a lot of people will probably see themselves in your story, and I'm hoping that people, from underrepresented backgrounds or who might not have been able to imagine this like life of like success and stability can see that it is possible to create it for yourself. So, my first question for you would be like, out of everything that you said, where there's so much good stuff in there about, branding and about, mentorship and networking and all those things, like, what would be your number one piece of advice to someone who is trying to get started and get established in their career?
Ooh, I would say the number one, I think networking is really big. I think it's the most powerful thing because if you can establish some connection and have that connection as you grow, you'll always have that connection. So, like, for example, I'm connected with people that I've been connected to, as an LDR, and now, as a senior account executive, I can connect to those people in a different way. Another thing too is, if you're able to build that network as you grow as well, and you start having that network of people, friends, hire friends. So that's a really big thing, which is another reason why I think the job market's hard because a lot of people have that in, right? To where it's like, hey, I know someone who knows someone, right? Or hey, someone I work with at this company, right? Like, or I know this person, right? Or hey, I've been watching this person on LinkedIn for a while. If they're available, I've seen that happen. Like, and so I think the
Mm-hmm.
networking piece is super important. If you don't know how anything or know how to do anything, like learn how to network, right? Even if it's just creating a LinkedIn and pressing connect. Like I swear that's all you got to do. The rest will figure itself out. So networking to me is my number one, 100%.
Amazing. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to set you up here just a little bit because I know that you've
Okay.
shared so much about wanting to, support others and mentor them in their journey. So, where can
Yes.
people follow along with you? Where can they follow along with what you're doing? And
Yeah.
maybe, DM you if they need
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
great advice and wisdom.
I LinkedIn is a very, very good spot for me. They can always DM me, connect with me. I'm always a connect away. I don't shy away from connections. So, if they connect with me and, have any questions or want to just chat, I am always, always open. And, hopefully down the line, as I start to, establish myself a little bit more, I do have the aspirations of kind of having my own page on LinkedIn to kind of promote mentorship or just having that, community surrounded around the top performer standard that I've been talking about for years that I haven't done anything but I'm going to this time. But for now, LinkedIn is my best spot to reach out to me.
I love that. I appreciate it. I'm certainly going to be following along for everything that you continue to do. You have had such
Thank
an
you.
impact. And I really appreciate you taking the time for this conversation. So have an
Thank you.
amazing day.
You too.
Thank you. And we will
Thank you.
connect soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.